award, this Toastmaster will give a couple-minute speech on accepting that award, which will be evaluated. So Deborah, why don't you come on up and present that award.
Thank you. Well, it's my great pleasure to present what is called a Triple Crown Award. And for you folks here that don't know what a Triple Crown Award is, that's a award that Toastmasters International recognizes for any member who achieves 3 or more educational leadership awards in any given year. And I'd like to invite Cathy up here to receive this Triple Crown Award. Cathy completed her Advanced Communicator Bronze, Advanced Leader Bronze, and Advanced Leader Silver all in 1 year. And she also is a past Area Governor of the Year for District 9 Toastmasters. It's with great pleasure to give Cathy this award and know that she's done such great things for Toastmasters, and I know she will continue to do even more. Thank you, Cathy.
Thank you, Deborah, and more importantly, thank you to the organization of Toastmasters. Many of us, I believe, when we join Toastmasters, hear that it's a public speaking organization where you can learn about speaking better. That's just the tip of the iceberg when we join Toastmasters. Because as a new member, you think, oh my gosh, I didn't know we had manuals. The next thing is, oh my gosh, I think there's a leadership manual. What's that all about? And the two go together. And then if you're working on your communication work tract, your leadership tract, you become a DTM. And oh my gosh, what is that? Distinguished Toastmaster. Well, with this award, I could not have done it with people in this room. There were times with working on manuals that, on the leadership particularly, that a member in this group, Dan Plows, we had finished working as a team and putting on the conference, a fall conference a couple years ago. And we did a great job together. We had kind of fun doing it. And Dan said, you know, if we work together as a team, we could do our advanced leadership project. And that's one of the most difficult projects to do in Toastmasters, and that keeps people from being a DTM. Who wants to do that? Oh, okay, I'll do that. But if it weren't for Dan having the foresight to bring other people in along with him and encourage us as a group, 5 or 6 of us, I believe, had our advanced leadership workshop, or advanced high performance leadership, thank you, Deborah, completed, and that's difficult. The next person I'd like to thank is Deborah, because Deborah is always one who says, don't forget to bring your manual and have it signed off so we can work on our competent communicator manual. Then our clubs will get points for that. And she's always one who is thinking higher and greater and bringing me along. So without those two people in my life of Toastmasters, I don't think this would have been possible. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Cathy.
What a great plug for Toastmasters and members of
Toastmasters. Here you go. I would take it. But I'm not worthy. At least I don't think so. At this point during the meeting is one of my favorite parts, the evaluation part. I enjoy the speeches immensely, but I also enjoy the evaluations because it helps not only me to learn, but also to see how you guys evaluate for future evaluations for myself. First, I want to bring up Dan to do a content evaluation. Dan, if that's all right, on just Deborah first. And then we'll go through and I'll have Mark do the manual evaluations on both of them at the end. But if we could do that, that'd be awesome. Thanks, Dan.
This is rather bizarre, because the content isn't Deborah's. It belonged to Ray Bradbury. All I have to say is that entire story involved 113 steps, and those steps were the cement of the story. And what Deborah did is she used pauses to make that effective. The other evaluators will have more to say on that, but that's all I can say. Mr. Toastmaster.
Dan picked a great week to be content evaluator. He knew it was going to be an easy one. With that, I'd like to bring Cathy up. Cathy, if you would mind coming up and doing the visual evaluation, that would be greatly appreciated. Cathy Simons.
Thank you, Mike. Deborah, great speech. And a different speech that we get to hear. It's not just giving a speech yourself, but reading something. I found it really great. You're standing still when you gave presentation or the reading. You weren't bobbing around, and that can be distracting, so that was really good. It's hard to have eye contact with someone when you're reading. At first, when you were reading the introduction, I know you're trying to have eye contact and read at the same time, and so there was a lot of, to me, it was a little bit distracting that way. So I was thinking perhaps if you had either this lectern that you could have put it up there to go ahead and look and read a little bit easier, that might have been helpful. You had great facial expressions, which helped, the audio to talk about that, but great facial expressions to bring in the story as well. So that was really great. A thought I might have is to make it a little bit more intimate if you had, and you don't, but if you did it somewhere else and you had a tall stool with something perhaps next to it to hold it, not in the way, that you could have eye contact, bring it down a little bit so we felt a little bit more homey. That was the only thing I saw visually. Great speech. And with that, I will bring who? Oh, okay. You're gonna, our Toastmaster.
Thanks, Cathy. Toastmasters, again, I have the pleasure of doing the, I don't even remember which evaluation I'm doing. Audio evaluation. Even though I have it marked here on the sheet in front of me. Anyway, Dan, you keep laughing like that, I'm going to take you outside. Cathy, there were several things I really, or Deborah, several things I really enjoyed about that speech. Not only the story in and of itself, I love the closing of the story too, but I started out appreciating your intensity because I wanted to look at it as if it was on mute, like the evaluation sheet says. And so I looked at it and said, man, I want to hear it, but I also want to see what you're doing. And your facial expressions were wonderful because you were intense with that, the steps and the counting. And I loved that part about it. I loved your passion towards what you were reading. It's obvious you have read it several times. You prepared for that. And I could see that even if it was silent, that you were passionate about it. And one of the things I thought worked well is it reminded me of a standing masterpiece theater. I thought what you wore worked well for the story. Not even being able to hear the story, I was thinking, what is she wearing and how is she acting towards it? It made me curious, as if I was listening to kind of a radio program. And I really enjoyed that part of it. Two things I thought could be improved. One of them Cathy mentioned also is maybe if you would have had it in a different location, you could have used some hand gestures as that. Because sometimes you would try to use a hand gesture, but then you would grab the book again so you could turn that page. But you held it steady. You were very steady throughout. And I like that. But to use the hand gesturing, having that set. And I could tell too for a little bit, after a while, standing here like that, when you get to that rocking thing, you would do the rock, but you would only rock to the right, never to the other way. So I was looking to the other half of the dance step, but you had the one-sided dance step going, which was all right, but that was one thing that took the eye focus off. And one thing I found particularly outstanding was you were able to read from this, still do the eye contact, go back to where you're reading, and never did I hear an interruption, a hiccup, like, oh, you know how sometimes you start over in the beginning of the sentence? It was continuous, even though you were looking at us and continuously going back to it. I thought that was phenomenal. And I really appreciate that because that challenges me. So I felt you did an awesome job. Appreciate that. And with that, Mark, would you come on up and give both of our manual evaluations? Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mike. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and my first evaluation will be for Deborah on her reading. And this is my first manual evaluation, so I will use the manual up here. Was the theme clearly understandable and the narrative storyline clear? Was the first question out of the manual. Yes, very much so. From the introduction on, right into the reading itself. I would have stated the title and author right at the beginning of your presentation with a strong pause, so whatever. Did the reader make effective use of vocal variation, tone, mood? Yes. Inflections, tone. It was clear enough, I can hear it. That was part of the crescendo to the climax, too. You conveyed a sense of the author's style as far as I'm concerned, being a Bradbury reader myself. You led up to the crisis and the major climax in your enumeration of the steps, your descriptions of the nights and echoes with the correct voice inflections and tones. The introductions and transitions were effective. I would have used a bit longer pause between your actual introduction and the reading of your text. I didn't know if that was the actual reading that you were doing from the beginning, but it was the introduction. And you created an illusion of spontaneity during the presentation, very much you did, with tones, inflections, and your good specific reading of this piece. Deborah, thank you very much, and I will go on to the next evaluation of Cathy Simons for accepting the Triple Crown Award. How effectively did the speaker express gratitude to the organization presenting the award? You thanked us as Toastmasters and the presenter first, and then you thanked us, the Toastmaster group. How did the speaker recognize the organization presenting the awards? You filled us in, the listener in, on the Toastmaster criteria and the rankings of Toastmasters, and then you cited those who helped you, namely Dan Plouse. You were very sincere, you used examples of those who helped you. You appeared comfortable and very gracious in accepting the award. What could you have done differently to make the speech more effective? I would have approached those who you were speaking to, for example, when you addressed Dan Plouse, I would have approached Dan. I would have approached. You decided to do people that had helped you to hear just a little more punctuation of sincerity. I will turn it over to our Toastmaster.
Great evaluation. I want to throw it out to you guys too. Are you guys okay to go ahead and continue on, or do you need a couple-minute break? We'll take a vote. Majority will rule. Break. Drive on. 3.5. There's some selfish motives behind no break, but 3.5 minutes. We'll continue. We'll do the general evaluation, and then we'll have a couple more awards, and then we'll have a meeting. Will adjourn, and officers will meet afterwards for a meeting. Okay, 3.5 minutes. Yeah.